Thanks for being here. Subscribe to Cheating Stories Best, so you don't miss new stories.
Listen to 2 stories at once and decide which one is better.
Does a husband spend the weekend with his favorite wife or with his cheating wife? All through today's story, that will be the question. Enjoy the show! Water, water, where will you meet your Waterloo? Every puppy has his day, everyone has to pay, everyone must meet their Waterloo. Thomas Stonewall Jackson, Tom or Stone to his friends and family, was looking forward to the upcoming weekend as he drove home from work that Monday. Memorial Day had just passed, but he and Janice, his wife of 5 years, were invited to spend a 4-day weekend at the country estate of her boss, Darren Hansen, a senior partner at Remington Law Group where Janice worked as a paralegal. Stone already had Monday off, so he took the day off to free up Friday. His boss, who was also his father, was kind enough to let him leave early on Thursday so he could pack up and hit the road. The drive to Darren's estate would easily take 3 hours, given the motorway traffic and the nature of the narrow, winding roads leading to Darren's estate. Stone had high hopes for the weekend, but the last 2 months had not been the best for his relationship with Janice. She had become somewhat sullen and snapped at him for no apparent reason. As for intim, forget it. What was a frequent hobby 3 or 4 nights a week had given way to a perhaps reluctant once every 2 weeks exercise. Being a caring, loving husband, Stone reached out to Janice, hoping to help her overcome whatever was troubling her. But she simply brushed him off, saying that she would deal with it herself. To make matters worse, Janice constantly rejected his attempts to initiate physical contact, and now often recoiled from him when he tried to hug or comfort her. The situation became increasingly unbearable for him, and he wondered if she was having an affair. Then she told him they had been invited to her boss's country estate for the weekend to celebrate her promotion. Promotion? Tom asked, confused. You never said anything about a promotion. How long has this been in the works? For a couple of months already, Janice answered. Sorry, I should have told you earlier. So that's why you've been so distant lately? I think so. I'm sorry, honey. I didn't mean to be so harsh with you. I've had a lot on my mind lately, she answered repentantly. Tom smiled as he pulled her into his arms, saddened when she flinched slightly. I can imagine, he said. And here I was worried you might be having an affair. He felt her tense slightly but then relax. Of course not, Janice said quickly. I would never do anything like that to you. Tom heard the words, but something in her tone sounded unconvincing. I'm glad to hear that, Tom forced himself to say, despite his growing anxiety, because you know that's the one thing I simply wouldn't tolerate. I know, Janice said quietly. So, do you think you can get off early on Friday? 4 days in nature would do us both good. Certainly. I have plenty of free time. We can leave on Thursday after I finish work, if you want. That would be wonderful. I'll let Darren know, and everything will be packed by the time you get home, she said. I promise this will be a weekend you will never forget. Stone thought about these words as he poured gas into his new 4-wheel drive Ford F-150 pickup. A weekend he'll never forget. He could only hope she meant it in a good way, but a part of him had mixed feelings, especially after the rather serious conversation he had earlier with his father and uncle. He pulled into the driveway, turned off the engine, and headed into the house. True to her word, Janice had everything packed and ready to be loaded onto the truck. He checked his bags, making sure his belongings were packed and ready to go. He was impressed that Janice even packed his toiletries in his travel bag. Then he took the other bags. You've got enough stuff here for a week, he joked, as she walked into the room wearing cut-off shorts and a t-shirt. I thought we were just going out of town for the weekend. You know I like to prepare for everything, she joked back. Why don't you load this stuff up, and I'll finish here. He saw that she had sandwiches on the counter and was packing a picnic basket with snacks and drinks for the road, as she usually did when they took weekend day trips. Sounds tempting, he said with a smile. Maybe this will be a good weekend after all. He loaded everything into the truck, helped Janice finish packing the groceries, locked up the house, and headed out for what he fervently hoped would be a nice weekend out of town. This weekend promises to be the best of my life, Janice admired, while Tom drove the car. Trust me, you'll have a great time, Tom replied, hoping she was serious. It took Tom longer than he planned to get out of town due to an accident on the freeway that brought traffic to a screeching halt. As a result, they were almost 2 hours behind schedule, but this did not affect Janice's cheerful mood, which pleased Tom. He topped up the gas tank once more as he pulled onto the road that would lead them to Darren's estate. They drove down the windswept road through the rolling woodland. It was well after midnight when they reached the gate leading to Darren's spacious 2-story home. Janice was given the gate code, and soon they arrived at a huge brick mansion. "Damn, this is a big house," Tom exclaimed. 3 men in dark suits and sunglasses approached the truck as Tom turned off the engine. Tom was surprised. "Why do they need sunglasses in the dark?" "I can get our luggage," Tom said, opening the back door of the pickup. "Anyway, thank you." "No, sir, this is our job," said one of the men in a voice devoid of humor. The other man extended his hand. "Keys, sir." "I need to park your car," the second man said. "Please do," Tom said grimly, handing his keys to the second man, noting the characteristic bulge on his jacket indicating he was armed. The other 2 men unceremoniously grabbed his luggage and disappeared into the darkness without a word. "Thank you," Tom said automatically, watching as the men easily carried the heavy bags up the steps. "Are you walking?" Janice asked. "Yeah, sure." "I'm coming," Tom replied, following Janice and the 2 men up the stairs, wondering why they needed to be armed. Something about it just didn't seem right. "Oh, here you are. I hope you had a safe trip," a tall man with dark, curly hair boomed as they entered. Tom recognized the man as Darren Hansen. He had met Darren several times at corporate holiday events. As Tom watched, Janice managed a hug, then turned to Tom. "Thomas, glad to see you again." "I'm Darren Hansen," he introduced himself, holding out his hand. "Welcome to my humble home." "Thank you." "It's nice to see you again, Mr. Hansen," Tom said, shaking Darren's hand. "No need to be so formal, Tom. Can I call you Tom?" "I have a feeling we'll be seeing more of each other now that your wife has been promoted," Darren said with a slight smile. "Of course," Tom replied. "I'm sorry we're late. There was an accident on the freeway," Janice explained. "That's what I heard," Darren said. "I'm just glad you arrived safely." "Are the others here?" Janice asked. "Others?" Tom didn't know there would be others here. "Yes, they're all here. Unfortunately, they've all decided to turn in early. We wanted everyone to be well rested for tomorrow's celebration," Darren replied. The man who took Tom's keys came back through the front door and returned them. "Thank you," Tom said, putting the keys in his pocket. By this time, the 2 men who had taken their luggage had returned from the second floor. "Harold, take the Jacksons to their room, if you would," Darren ordered. "Yes, sir," said one of the big guys. "We'll see you bright and early tomorrow morning," Darren said. "Pleasant dreams." "Thank you," Janice said quietly, modestly lowering her eyes. Tom noticed but didn't say anything. He simply filed it away in his mind. Maybe Dad was right, he thought. This seems odd. "Please, Harold," commanded the voice, dead and creaky. Tom and Janice followed the man up a spiral staircase and down 2 hallways before stopping at a locked door. He pulled out the key card and held it up to the reader. Tom heard the lock click open. Harold opened the door and motioned for them to enter. "Oh my God," Janice breathed as they stepped inside. The room was spacious and well-furnished, with a private bathroom featuring a double vanity and a large TV monitor on the wall opposite the double bed. A gas fireplace took up most of one wall. "It's very nice here," Tom said with feigned cheerfulness, looking around. "I'm glad you approve," said Harold. He pulled out 2 key cards, one of which he handed to Janice and the other to Tom. "These are your room keys. Please keep them with you at all times. Breakfast will be served tomorrow at 7:30 a.m. "Good night," Janice replied as Harold left the room, closing the door behind him. "This is a very nice room," Tom said, walking around and taking inventory. "Yes, that's true," Janice agreed as Tom began hanging his clothes in the closet. Janice put her things away, but Tom noticed that she simply hung the bag of clothes in the closet without taking out the clothes first. "So, who are these other people that Darren said would be here?" he asked. "Oh, Just some bigwigs from the company, Janice answered without looking at him. In this new position, what exactly is it? Tom followed suit. I'm Darren's new executive assistant, Janice told him. This position comes with a significant salary increase, but from time to time, I will have to travel. Does it suit you? As long as it doesn't interfere with our lives, said Tom. You know we talked about having children. I know, but I might have to put it off for a while, Janice said quietly. At least until I get comfortable in my new position. What time frame are you talking about? I don't know, maybe 6 months, maybe a little longer, she asked. I know this job is very important to you, Tom replied neutrally, wondering what exactly the position entailed and knowing that they weren't getting any younger. You have no idea, Janice told him. This is a huge step for me. All I ask is a little time and patience. Fair enough, Tom said, hugging his wife. You know that I'm very proud of you, don't you? Really? Janice asked in a quiet voice. Of course, he answered, kissing her on the lips. I love you, Janice. Never forget this. I love you too, Tom, she replied after they climbed into bed and turned off the light. Tom reached for Janice, but her eyes were closed, and she appeared to be asleep. He sighed, as this had been her habit for the past 2 months. Frustrated, he turned on his side and fell asleep. The sky was clear, dark blue without a hint of a cloud. The sun was high, and a light breeze was blowing from the south. Suddenly, the sky darkened and became clouded with large, threatening clouds. The light breeze turned into a sharp wind that became stronger every moment. There was a dull rumble as the sky darkened and clouds gathered. There was a brief flash of lightning in the distance as the storm clouds thickened and the wind picked up. A sudden flash of lightning struck the ground right at his feet. Tom had this dream many times, except for the beating heart, and every time he experienced this, someone he knew died within the next 72 hours. The last time was 3 years ago. 2 days later, his older brother Andrew was hit by a drunk driver and died instantly. The year before, his mother had a stroke just 12 hours after he slept and died 24 hours later without regaining consciousness. Tom sat up in bed, sweat rolling off his body. He looked at the digital clock on his bedside table and saw that it was 4:15 a.m. Even though it was very early in the morning, Tom knew he had to contact his father. Tom grabbed his phone from the bedside table and noticed that it had no connection. He climbed out of bed carefully so as not to wake Janice, put on his trousers and t-shirt, then put on his boots. Grabbing his key card, he opened the door to find one of Darren's armed guards at a small desk in the hallway. A man in a dark suit and glasses looked up when Tom opened the door. Any problems, Mr. Jackson? Asked the large man. I need to use the phone, but there's no cell service here, Tom said. Who are you going to call? I need to call my father, this is important, Tom told him. This way, sir, said the man, standing up. Tom followed him into a smaller room off the corridor. You can use this phone, he added, pointing to the phone on the small table next to the chair. Just dial 9 for an outside line first. Thank you, Tom said, sitting down in a chair. He started calling his father's number and saw the man standing in the doorway. Can I have some time alone, please? Of course, said the guard, turning away from the door. Tom couldn't believe the man's sudden appearance. Why was he armed? He finished dialing the number and began to wait. His father answered after the third ring. Hello, who is this? Asked his father. Hi Dad, it's me, Tom. Sorry for calling so early, I just wanted to make sure you were okay. I was in the middle of a very pleasant dream, remembering your mother, but I'm fine. Tom, did you have another one of your dreams? Yes, Tom said quietly. He heard his father sigh on the other end of the line. The same one you had before Andy's accident? Asked his father. Exactly the same, said Tom. Understood. Thanks for letting me know, son. I'm fine, but I'll keep my eyes open. Why don't you go back to bed? Fine, I will. Thanks, Dad. I just wanted you to know, Tom told him. I appreciate it, son, but I'm fine, I promise. Keep in touch with me for some time, his father promised. Remember what I said, And watch your back." They finished the conversation, and Tom returned to his room. "Everything is fine?" he asked the guard. "Yes, everything is fine, thank you," Tom said, before opening the door to his room. He undressed and climbed back into bed, and Janice made a sound, turning to face him. "Where did you go?" "Is everything okay?" she asked sleepily. "Yes, everything is just fine." "I had to call my dad," Tom said. "Oh," she made a sounds, before rolling over onto her side again. Tom could tell by her breathing that she had fallen asleep again. He closed his eyes, but sleep eluded him for another hour as he continued to think about the disturbing dream. Tom got out of bed at 6 a.m. and went to the bathroom to complete his morning routine. Afterward, he took a quick shower, then changed into clean jeans and a polo shirt. Janice followed him into the bathroom, opening the blinds. Walking over to the nightstand, Tom picked up his watch and wallet and looked out the window. He noticed wrought iron bars attached to the outside of the window and wondered why they were there. There was no platform, and the concrete driveway had to be at a height of at least 8 meters. Looking outside, Tom saw a helicopter land in an area at least 50 meters from the house. He hadn't seen it before, but it was dark last night when they arrived. He also noticed guards carrying what looked like rifles over their shoulders. Tom couldn't help but wonder, was Darren expecting trouble? "Are you ready for breakfast, honey?" Janice asked as she came out of the bathroom. "Ready as ever," Tom said, checking his wristwatch. "What happened last night?" she asked. "Another dream," said Tom. "You mean like before your brother was killed?" "Yes, exactly the same. I called my dad to make sure he was okay." "How is he?" she asked. "Great. I caught him in the middle of his sleep, I bet," Janice giggled, which seemed vaguely unsettling to him as she finished getting dressed. "Come on, let's go downstairs and have breakfast." "I'm starving." "Don't forget your cane," she reminded Tom. The cane was a gift from his father given to Tom after he left the hospital many years ago. While serving in Iraq, the Humvee he was in was hit by an enemy RPG. Tom spent months in surgery and rehab and was eventually discharged for medical reasons. Luckily, doctors saved Tom's leg, but he had to have his left hip replaced. The rehabilitation center helped Tom learn to walk again, and the cane significantly eased his mobility. Although he could now move normally, he still experienced pain after walking for a long time, so he continued to use his father's gift. They arrived at Darren's table to find 3 more men and a woman waiting for them. Tom had briefly met these men before and knew that they were the heads of Darren's law firm, although he could not remember their names. He had never seen or met this woman before. "Everyone, I would like to introduce my husband, Thomas Stonewall Jackson," Janice announced. Tom shook hands with the others. "Stonewall?" "Yes, that's a rather unusual name," noted Glenn Oldman, one of the company's leaders. "My parents were big Grand Ole Opry fans back in the day, so they named me after their favorite country and western singer from the 50s and 60s, Tom answered. Dad used to joke that it was either that or Michael Stonewall Jackson. "Yes, I think I remember that name," Glenn answered with a smile. "He died about 10 years ago, didn't he?" "That's what I heard," Tom answered. The woman smiled as Tom took her hand. "Nice to finally meet you, Mr. Jackson. I've heard a lot about you." "I'm Eve Carson," she said. "Nice to meet you, Miss Carson. Please call me Tom. I hope you heard at least a few good things." "So, what do you do at the firm?" asked Tom. "I'm responsible for training and recruiting personnel," Eva told him. "And please feel free to call me Eve. I've heard a lot of good things, and I have a feeling we'll be spending a lot of time together this weekend." "About?" asked Tom. "Why is this?" "With Janice's new position, there will be a lot of changes in your life," Darren said before Eve could answer. "She's here to help you adjust, adapt." "Why should I accommodate my wife's promotion?" Tom asked, more than worried. He looked at Janice, expecting an explanation, but none came. "It's complicated," Darren stated bluntly. "Let's have breakfast first, okay? Maybe we can get to know each other a little before we get to the point." They sat down as Darren's staff wheeled carts into the room. As Tom watched, they placed dishes of eggs, bacon, toast, and fruit in front of each person. Another employee walked around the table, pouring coffee into cups. Tom also noticed the armed guards who had taken up positions on either side of the door. "So, Tom, why don't you tell us a little about yourself?" asked Rick Harmon, another executive director. "Janice says you were some kind of soldier or something." Tom looked at Janice before answering. He told her a little about his service, but it slipped her mind. As far as she could tell, everyone who wore the green uniform served in the military. "I served in the army, but I was never a soldier," Tom answered before taking a bite of his omelet, which he found delicious. "Oh, who are you then?" Rick asked, looking at Janice. "I served in the Marine Corps," Tom answered. "Thank you for your service," Darren said. "What did you do in the Marine Corps, if you don't mind me asking?" "Not at all," said Tom. "I was a scout sniper. I was assigned to the intelligence unit of the armed forces, where I was wounded." "Scout sniper, huh?" Ryan Jones, the third executive at the table, said thoughtfully. Tom noticed how the other executives and security personnel looked at each other before answering. The looks began to express concern, and Tom wondered what was going on here. Although I haven't had to do this for several years, the military part of his consciousness reproached itself. Did he give away his position or warn them? "It's interesting that you never told us about this, Janice," Darren said with a slight strain in his voice, looking at Tom's wife, who was blushing slightly. "It's not Janice's fault," Tom said before Janice could speak. "I never told her exactly what I did in the service, partly because some of it is still classified and partly because this is a period of my life that I would rather forget." "But now you are an accountant, this is true?" Rick asked hastily, intervening to relieve the tension that suddenly hung over the table like a cloudy day. "Yes, I was released from rehab and went to college to get a business degree. That's where I met Janice. Now I'm a forensic accountant and I work for my father," Tom said. "What does your father do?" Glenn asked. "He's in charge of Jackson's specialized investigations. Works mostly for corporations," Tom said. "I've heard about them," Rick said thoughtfully. "From what I've heard, they do their job well." They finished breakfast, making mostly small talk, but this did not help Tom, who had a very bad feeling about the whole thing. He learned to listen carefully to his instincts on the battlefield as they saved his life more than once. "Well, it looks like a beautiful day outside, Eva. Why don't you give Tom a tour of the house while we go out to the backyard?" asked Darren. "Of course," Eva answered. Tom looked at Janice and tried to guess her thoughts, but couldn't. She had the kind of expression on her face that he wouldn't want to play poker with. "Come on, honey. Everything will be fine," she said encouragingly but a little tensely. "Yes, okay," said Tom. He was uncomfortable in this situation, but he felt that there was little he could do now, so he gave in to Darren and Janice. Intelligence and diligence, he told himself, grabbing his cane. He looked at Eve. "Are you ready, Tom?" she asked, with a vivacity that he knew was false. "Of course," Tom answered, hoping that the churning in his stomach would subside. "After you," Janice put her hand on his shoulder before he left, and he stopped and looked at her. "Just remember that I love you," she whispered. "I love you too," Tom said. He leaned in to kiss her, but she turned away, shocked and humiliated. Tom retreated and walked away, saying nothing, until he and Eve were far from the main house. Tom couldn't help but notice the heavily armed guards nearby. Turning his back to Eve, Tom pulled out his phone and activated the voice recording app, noticing that it somehow had 2 bars, a weak signal but enough to make a call. He then put it in his pocket. "It's so beautiful here," Eve finally said, to break the ice. "Yes," Tom answered evasively. They walked to a wooden park bench overlooking a small pond and stopped. Eve sat down, and Tom followed suit. "What's going on here?" he asked. "You are a smart man, Tom. Why don't you figure this out yourself?" she asked in response. "I have an idea, but it's too terrible to think about," Tom replied. "Why don't you just confess everything to me?" Eve began. "Fine, as you know, Janice has been selected as Darren's next executive assistant," Eve began. "Yes, I already know that. Janice told me about it, but that's not all, is it?" "Yes," said Eve. "Your life is about to change, Tom. Whether this is for the better will depend on how you react. You know Janice loves you, don't you? I heard her say that, but to be honest, I find it hard to believe now. Trust me, she really loves you, and she wants the best for the two of you. That's why she's willing to do whatever it takes to guarantee your future, Eve lectured. You support your wife in her career goals, don't you? Certainly, that's what I've always done, Tom said. He felt the same as he had one night many years ago as he slowly made his way across the ground, scanning the sand for mines under the high-tech heat-dissipating cloak. I'm glad to hear this from you. Then you must understand that the next year or two will only be a minor obstacle, a bump in the road to a long, happy marriage. A year or two. She mentioned 6 months. Why are you saying this? What will happen in the next 2 years? Tom asked meaningfully. And what exactly is your role in all this? I'll get to it. My role is to prepare you for what's to come and to make sure you fully understand and accept Darren's expectations for you and your wife. Why should I care about Darren's expectations of me? I don't report to him, and he doesn't sign my paycheck, Tom growled, his patience running out. No, he doesn't do that, but he signs for her, and your tacit consent. This will make Janice's job a lot easier, Eve explained. Silent agreement? What the hell are you talking about? I'm sure you've noticed that Darren is what most people would call an alpha male, Eve stated as if it were as obvious as a giant flashing red neon sign. In other words, he's a self-absorbed narcissist, Tom growled. Eve grinned, and it was the first sincere sound she made, and the first one he believed. Let's say he expects people to obey, do what is expected of them. This also applies to Janice and, as a result, you. In other words, he wants my wife, and expects me to just accept it. Isn't that what you want to tell me? His temperature rising, but for now it is under strict control. I wouldn't use such terminology, but essentially, yes. In fact, they were already there. Intimate, several times, Eve said, noticing the pained expression on Tom's face. And you know this, where? Asked Tom. I was there. I recorded this, Eve said in an even tone. Would you like to watch something from the video? You're joking, right? Not at all, Tom. Here, take a look. You might find this interesting, Eve said, handing Tom her phone. He watched a short video clip. This is interesting. Do you mind if I save a copy? Tom asked. This would be useful to him during a divorce, he thought. Not at all. I saved this clip especially for you using the phone's Bluetooth function. Tom saved a copy to his phone. Tell me something, Tom. How has your personal life been lately? Not that it's any of your damn business, but it's been practically non-existent for the last couple of months. Why did you ask? Actually, it's my business. And the reason for this is simple. Darren instructed Janice to keep you away most of the time. He takes great care of his property. What? And she just went along with it? Tom growled through clenched teeth, his anger growing. Certainly. Now he is her owner. She obeys him in the same way as all his previous assistants obeyed him. And he will expect you to report to him too, Tom shuddered at the word master. He can wait in one hand and shit in the other. Let's see which one fills up first, Tom growled through clenched teeth. He saw the smirk on her face and wanted to wipe it away with the back of his hand. So, what does he expect from me? Money, hardly ever, grinned Eve. He expects obedience from you, your submission. And he will expect you to publicly demonstrate this tonight in front of the other senior partners. What are you talking about? What does he expect from me? The dynamics of your marriage will change dramatically while Janice is in her current position. To reflect this, Darren has documents that you must sign. These documents state that you voluntarily transfer your marital rights, property, and assets to him while Janice is his assistant. After he gets his way from you, he'll expect you to kneel before him in front of your wife and everyone else. I know it's hard to hear, but Janice expects that from you. In fact, she can't wait to see how you do it. Thus, you will give him all the power in your marriage for as long as he deems fit. Let me see if I understood what you just said correctly. In front of Janice and other executives? Are you kidding me? Tom growled. I'm not kidding, Tom. And yes, that's what he wants. And Janice too, of course. The entire meeting will be filmed, certainly. In my opinion, this looks like extortion or blackmail. Coming from you, it sounds so tasteless. But that would be used to keep you in line, Eve said nonchalantly. After you submit to them early tomorrow morning, they will leave for New York, where they will spend the weekend. Where will I be while they are in New York? Tom asked. You will stay here, locked in your room. You will be fed and looked after. When they return, you will take Janice back to your residence. You will follow her instructions exactly, without asking questions, Eva replied. So, if I understand you correctly, I must literally be held captive here against my will? And what will I get from this? If you go along with Darren's program, you will emerge relatively unscathed, except for a little humiliation. And when he's done with Janice, you'll be well compensated. And I understand that you and my soon-to-be ex-wife are conspiring to destroy my marriage, to take away my life's work. Am I right? I wouldn't put it quite like that, but I guess from your point of view, yes, we worked on this together, Eve said in a neutral tone. Did he do this with his other assistants? Tom asked. Yes, said Eva. And they went along with this crap. They did? Tom exclaimed. In fact, it gave the husbands great pleasure. What harm will it do? Tom hissed. And you can tell that if he tries to attack me, I'll do everything in my power to make sure it's the last thing he ever does. I understand you're angry, Tom, and you have every right to be. But in the end, you would win in many ways, not just one. What if I don't agree with all this crap? Let's just say you wouldn't like the consequences, Eve said. Some tried to fight Darren and ended up penniless, and those convicted of intimate crimes ended up in prison. Not a very pleasant existence. That sounds like a threat, Tom replied. Call it what you want. Fine. I'll do that, Tom replied, taking his phone out of his pocket. He stopped, saved the audio, and went through his contacts until he found what he was looking for. Once he was sure there was a signal, he selected the number he wanted, then raised the phone to his ear. What are you doing? Eve asked, her face turning red with anger. Tom smiled and put a finger to his lips, indicating that she should remain silent. Sheriff Jackson, the man said when he answered Tom's call. Uncle Bob, how are you doing? Asked Tom. Stonewall, what's happened? Dad was right. I need an extraction, fast. Do you have an address? I understand, son. I also have the coordinates from your phone. What's your plan of action? I counted at least 15 heavily armed men. There is a gate at the entrance. The code is 6973, unless they changed it last night. Hanson and 3 of his managers are here, as well as Eve Carson. She simply outlined the situation to me, so to speak. I recorded all this on audio. I'll send it to you, Tom said. Acknowledged, Bob replied. We're on our way. Estimated time of arrival is approximately 5 minutes. Can you last that long? I think so, Uncle Bob. As long as you're willing to call it self-defense, Tom said, and thanks with pleasure. I wouldn't want anything to happen to my beloved nephew. What about Janice? According to Coach Hanson, she is an accomplice and already available, Tom said. I'm sorry to hear that, son, Bob said sadly. Yes, me too, said Tom. Well, young man, you're doing great. We'll be there soon. With these words, Tom ended the conversation and then sent the audio file to his uncle. What did you just do? Asked the frightened Eve after Tom hung up. Who did you just call? I called the cavalry, Tom answered with a smile. I need to get back into the house and warn the others, Eve muttered, clearly disoriented by the turn of events. Tom shook his head and carefully sat her back down on the bench. She stared with horror and admiration at his sniper expression. I think not. We'll sit here and enjoy the sunshine for a few minutes. This may be the last sunlight you'll see for a while, Tom said, allowing himself to smile with satisfaction. I think you may have bitten off a little more than you can chew this time. Darren Ryan said, after Janice and the 4 men took their place next to the large pool behind Darren's house. Why? Because Cold Janice is a former Marine? Big deal, Darren chuckled. What's he going to do anyway? He's alone, unarmed, and surrounded by a small platoon of armed guards. If he rejects Eve's offer, then we move on to plan B, Rick warned. Don't worry, Darren said. I have everything under control. We'll give him a drink tonight, and when the time comes, he'll be more than happy to satisfy me. I can't wait to see this, Janice said. Just don't push him too hard, Ryan said. He's not like the others. They were weak. This one's different. They're all the same, Ryan, Darren grinned. No, that's not true. This guy is a combat marine, trained to kill. You must be ready for anything. Calm down, Ryan. I'll deal with it, Darren grumbled. But I'm curious about something. Why didn't you know about your husband's service? He asked Janice. Well, everything's as Tom said. He never told me any details, Janice replied. All he could say is that he served in the army. It doesn't matter, Darren snorted. He's going down tonight, and your career will take off. What's that sound? Glenn asked, looking around. Everyone fell silent and listened. The characteristic sounds of helicopters were heard around them. Suddenly, one of Darren's guards ran up to the pool. We have a problem, Mr. Hansen, he said irritably. What is it? Asked Darren. They heard screams and the sounds of men fighting. Then they saw 2 police officers in uniform and body armor walking towards the pool with rifles drawn. Stand down, ordered one of the sheriff's deputies. Drop your weapon, the deputy told Darren's guard, who immediately obeyed. More sheriff's deputies entered, handcuffing Janice, Darren, and the other 3 men. What's happening? Darren demanded, seeking an answer. I'll take your badges for this, sheriff's deputy said, before reading a detailed list of charges. He ended by reading their rights. Sheriff's deputies led all 5 detainees around the building, where they saw 4 helicopters, a bus, and 3 large vans. Officers were everywhere, escorting handcuffed and disarmed security officers to the bus. Janice saw Tom standing next to a large man in a khaki uniform. What's happening? She screamed. Your little party is over, Janice, Tom said calmly. Sorry, I forgot about good manners. Janice, this is Sheriff Robert Jackson. You remember my Uncle Bob, don't you? Uncle Bob? Janice gasped weakly. I didn't know you were the sheriff. It must have slipped your mind, Bob said with a grin. Tom, please. This is all a big misunderstanding. You have to believe me, Janice exclaimed in despair. No, Janice. I don't have to believe you. In fact, I don't think I've ever been more shocked and disappointed in my life. I'll visit my lawyer as soon as possible to file for divorce. From now on, you're dead to me, Tom said firmly. You understand? With these words, Tom grabbed her left hand and took off the rings, putting them in his pocket. You son of a, Darren growled, trying unsuccessfully to break free from the hands of the 2 sheriff's deputies holding him. I'll be out of prison in no time, and then I'll kill you. Can you hear me, you piece of? That sounds like a threat to me. What do you think, Uncle Bob? Tom asked with a smirk that surpassed all of Darren's previous anger. Of course, it sounded like that to me too, said Bob. We'll just add it to all the other charges against him. That'll help ensure he's never released on bail. Don't worry, Mr. Hansen. My boys will take good care of you, he chuckled. And your friends, take these people and get out of here, he ordered the sheriff's deputies, who immediately obeyed. Tom and Bob watched as the criminals were loaded onto the bus. It seemed to Tom that the last few years of his life had been a lie. He loved Janice from the moment they met. Bob patted him on the shoulder. Everything will work out, son. Trust me on this, he said. Bob had gone through a divorce from an unfaithful wife many years ago and knew the pain Tom was experiencing. Thank you, Uncle Bob, for all. You're welcome, son. If you need anything, call me. And tell your dad I said hi. I think he has a bottle of his best wine waiting for your visit, Bob interrupted. I will do so. Is it safe for me to pick up my belongings? I need to get the hell out of here. Certainly. I think they're almost done inside this place anyway, Bob told him. After they said goodbye, Tom packed his things and went home. After meeting with his father, Tom met with the family lawyer and filed divorce papers in accordance with the prenuptial agreement they signed before their wedding. He waited until they were served before visiting Janice in the county jail. "This will be the first and only time I visit you, Janice," he said as she took her seat. "By law, I have to make sure you have these documents." "I took them," Janice said quietly. "I already signed them and sent them back." "Fine, as I'm sure you can see, I followed the prenuptial agreement. I'll wait until your trial is over to get rid of your things." "I appreciate it," Janice said. "There's something I don't understand." "How did you know?" "You'll hear the gory details in court, so I'll give you the Reader's Digest version," Tom began. "I suspected something was going on a couple of months before that weekend, but I had no proof. About 4 months before that memorable day, the ex-husband of one of Darren's so-called assistants approached Dad with a rather wild story. He also brought several spreadsheets and documents that his ex-wife obtained from Darren's system. Dad made me look through the spreadsheets to see what I could find. Naturally, I couldn't tell you anything about privileges, conflicts of interest, and the like. It took some time, but we finally found what we were looking for: evidence of all sorts of nefarious financial dealings with some pretty shady characters. Your lover did a great job of hiding them, but not well enough. A couple of weeks before that weekend, Dad turned over everything he had to the feds, who were more than interested in Hanson's affairs. In fact, they were planning to raid your offices sometime in June, Dad said. I had to be very careful that weekend. He conveyed what his interlocutor had told him, although it was very difficult for him to believe it. We talked to my uncle, Bob, who, as you know, is the sheriff of the county where Darren's property is located. I hoped nothing would happen, but that's not how it worked. Eve Carson told me what you and your lover were planning. By the way, I recorded this little conversation. I'm glad we live in a state that only requires one party's permission to make a recording like this. However, I have a few questions for you. What do you want to know? Janice asked. How long before that weekend did you sleep with your so-called master? About 2 months, Janice answered. Tom was surprised that she was so frank. It was around this time that things started to go wrong for us. Was he the one who told you to intercept my communications? Yes, she said quietly, her face turning red. Then maybe I should get tested for diseases, Tom said, causing Janice even more embarrassment. Of course, you knew that I would never agree to this of my own free will. I'd rather die first. So why? Because I was so in love with Darren that I would agree to anything he wanted. You do not understand, she said. He liked the feeling of power over everyone around him. What if I didn't obey? He had what he called Plan B, Janice admitted. Do you mean prohibited substances? Yes. They found a vial that he intended to use against me. I have nothing to do with this, Janice said. That's interesting because they found your prints all over the bottle, Tom said, causing Janice to look at him in shock. Which tells me you were part of his plot against me. No. I never wanted to hurt you, she sobbed. The evidence suggests otherwise, Janice. You didn't just cheat on me, you plotted with your so-called master to destroy me as a man. So, there's no turning back. No forgiveness. Nothing. Like I told you that day, you're dead to me, Tom hissed as Janice shed hot tears but didn't flinch. I've already wasted enough time on you. Goodbye, Janice. Enjoy what's left of your miserable life, he said as he stood up and left, immune to her tears. After several court appearances, Janice, Darren, Eve, and others were found guilty of all charges brought against them. As the ringleader, Darren received a life sentence in federal prison, meaning he would never be paroled. Having played minor roles in Darren's illegal financial schemes, the 3 executives were sentenced to 20 years in prison. Ava and Janice received slightly lighter sentences. Several other employees of the firm were charged for their roles in the conspiracy. Several people supported the state's testimony against Darren and were given immunity as part of a plea deal. By the time the smoke cleared, Remington Law Group no longer existed. Tom's divorce from Janice went quickly and without a hitch because of Janice's imprisonment. Tom packed up all of her belongings and placed them in storage so that her parents could pick them up at their convenience. On the 4th of July, Tom, his father, and Bob celebrated Independence Day like the rest of the nation with a barbecue and fireworks. Bob brought a guest to the celebration and introduced her to Tom. He was instantly captivated by the attractive, slender, brown-eyed brunette standing in front of him and found it hard not to stare at her toned legs highlighted by a pair of short denim shorts. "Son, this is Mara Simmons. She just moved here from Dallas and started working with me a couple of weeks ago. Are you a sheriff's deputy?" Tom asked. "Of course," Mara said with a confident smile lighting up her face. "She's a former Marine too," Bob said. "Member of Parliament, like your father, Mara. My nephew also served in the Corps, sniper from Force Reconnaissance," Bob added. "Semper Fi," Mara answered. "Tom," she continued, "I think you and I will get along great." Tom broke into a wide smile. "I think so too," Mara agreed. "Will you buy the girl a beer?" "Of course," Tom answered. "I wouldn't mind having something fresh myself." He took 2 beers from his father's refrigerator and handed one to her. "Your uncle told me about your last operation." "Sounds great," Mara said as they sat down. "I'm sorry for what you went through with your ex," Tom remarked quietly. "Yeah, okay. I think this happens," Tom remarked quietly. "The divorce will soon be final. What about you? I saw the mark on your ring finger. Were you married too?" "Yes, I was," Mara said. "Obviously, my husband wasn't like that, if you know what I mean. One evening, I came home early and found him in bed with his secretary. In my bed, no less. I'm sorry to hear it." "If you ask me, he was an idiot," Tom told her, looking at her figure. "I agree," said Mara. "I'm just glad we didn't have children." "Do you have children?" "Fortunately, no. We talked about starting a family, and then everything went to hell." Tom and Mara talked most of the evening and were delighted when Bob and Tom's father set off fireworks. By the end of the evening, Tom felt much better. At least he believed he had met a kindred spirit in Mara. "Are you ready to go back, Mara?" Bob asked after they finished the fireworks. "I think now is a good time," she remarked before turning to Tom. "I had a wonderful time, Tom. It was very nice to meet you." "I had a wonderful time too, Mara, and I'm very glad that I met you. Actually, I'd like to see you again, if that's okay." "That would be more than good, Tom," she said with a wide smile on her face. "Here's my number," she added, handing him a card with her cell phone number. "Your uncle doesn't let me get bored, but on Saturday evenings, I'm usually free. Call me." "It will be done," Tom said, returning her smile. He took her card, noticing his uncle's wink and smile. "I'll call you this Thursday, then." "Let's talk," Mara said before kissing him on the cheek. They said goodbye and left. "Nice young lady," Tom's father said after they left. "Yes, very sweet," Tom said with a wide smile. "I hope you intend to keep your promise to her," said the elderly man. "Absolutely," said Tom. "Good boy," his father said, patting Tom on the back. "Come on, help me clean up and let's see if we can drink the rest of this beer." "Are you going to give me the day off tomorrow to sleep it off, Dad?" Tom asked. "Hell no," his father replied with a laugh. Laughing in response, Tom joined his father, thinking about the cute brunette with the prettiest legs he had seen in a long time.
Listen to the second story.
I often wonder if I'm the perfect husband. My career takes a lot of effort, and sometimes I come home not in the best mood. I may not be a paragon of financial success, but we live comfortably. Our house is welcoming. We have 2 reliable cars, and my wife has a closet full of beautiful clothes. Our daughter Vanessa has an abundance of expensive toys. As a result, I imagine myself to be a devoted and honest person for whom wife and family are above all else. Gloria and I have been happily married for almost 12 years, but lately, a sense of anxiety has crept into our relationship. There has been noticeable tension between us that is difficult to define. Recently, Gloria has become distant and withdrawn, showing an unusual coldness toward me. She started criticizing me over trivial things, which is unusual for her. I tried to address it by asking if she had something on her mind that she hadn't shared with me, But like many partners, she simply brushed off the topic, attributing her behavior to fatigue or a hard day. At first, I wanted to give her space to sort out what was bothering her, but her detached attitude is starting to upset me. In addition to her behavior, any married couple understands that problems in a relationship can affect intimate life. I've always wanted our love life to be exciting and unpredictable. Being a romantic at heart, I often surprise Gloria with small gestures. For example, I'd come home with a bouquet of roses to spark passion. These acts usually led to intimate moments later in the day. Unfortunately, lately, Gloria has only responded to my attempts to show romance with a brief thank you and a peck on the cheek. Instead of understanding the feelings behind my actions, she seems to only superficially acknowledge them. Gloria didn't seem to take my attempts to apologize for whatever I had done wrong. In the last few weeks, she has been distant and has not responded to my attempts to connect with her, justifying her behavior by saying she's not in the mood or has a headache. Even when she agreed to communicate, she acted passively, leaving the initiative to me. Over time, I found myself emotionally distancing from the relationship. After returning home, I tried to focus on spending quality time with our daughter, actively avoiding unnecessary communication with Gloria. Unfortunately, this only made the situation worse. As my despair grew, I found time at work to reflect on how things were going, wondering if I had inadvertently caused Gloria's behavior to change. Even though I tried to figure out the situation, I couldn't find any specific answers. I kept running through scenarios in my head, trying to make sense of what was going on. As I analyzed Gloria's recent behavior, a disturbing thought kept crossing my mind. Could it be that my wife is involved in an extramarital affair? Despite my initial disbelief, I couldn't shake the feeling that something was wrong. Every time I tried to make sense of her actions, it seemed to me that an invisible force was playing a part in the triangle formed by me, Gloria, and potential interference. I tried not to dwell on these thoughts, but my curiosity got the better of me. I began reading about the signs of infidelity, looking for any changes in Gloria's behavior, clothes, or daily routine. I didn't notice any major changes in her appearance or behavior, but I realized that my communication with her was mostly limited to evenings after work. I didn't know how she behaved during the day or what her daily routine was. Some of the unmistakable red flags of infidelity seemed all too recognizable, especially her changed behavior toward me. I considered contacting a private investigator, but I hesitated, having no hard evidence to confirm my suspicions. I didn't have anything concrete to justify the cost of hiring a private investigator, so I took matters into my own hands and started an independent investigation. In trying to find out Gloria's whereabouts, I resorted to more lenient measures. I began calling home in the afternoon, hoping to find her there. Unfortunately, the results were inconsistent. Frustrated by the lack of progress, I took further action. I bought an old surveillance camera and discreetly installed it under the eaves of our garage, connecting it to a hidden recorder concealed behind cans of paint. I decided to track any unfamiliar cars approaching our house. After 2 weeks of observation, the results were inconclusive. There were no signs of suspicious cars. There were times when I saw Gloria leave the house, but later she claimed that she had been home all day. Her absences were brief, too short for anything significant to happen, unless her possible lover was exceptionally efficient. It is quite possible that these absences were due to routine matters that she did not consider necessary to mention, and they hardly indicated infidelity. Despite the lack of hard evidence, my doubts did not abate. Gloria's behavior became more and more depressing, and the special moments we once shared became rare, which made me feel annoyed and bitter. As our 12th wedding anniversary approached, I saw a chance to breathe new life into our relationship by offering to host an evening in honor of this event, something we hadn't done in many years. I hoped that dinner and dancing could rekindle the passion between us. Inspired by the opportunity to reconnect, we planned for Vanessa to spend the night at my parents' house, giving us the chance to relax and enjoy each other's company without worrying about time. I booked a table at Plato's Place, a restaurant Gloria has always loved. When the waitress escorted us to the table, I hoped to bring back the magic of our past, but Gloria looked tense, and I couldn't figure out why. As her usual self began to emerge, our conversation became more natural and lighthearted. After dinner, I realized that Gloria couldn't wait to dance. I suggested going to another club, but she convinced me to stay at our favorite place, a charming venue with soft lighting and music designed for a more mature audience. Thanks to the friendly atmosphere and great music, it was easy to make the decision. Dancing is our shared passion, something that has united us from the very beginning. We found a quiet table and had a few drinks before gracefully making our way to the dance floor, moving with a sense of nostalgia. It was like we were transported to happier times, and we both enjoyed the moment. We danced for almost an hour, until fatigue began to creep in, and we returned to our table to take a much-needed break. I sat down feeling comfortable and relaxed, while Gloria took a sip of wine, then went to the restroom. As I admired my wife's elegant movements on the dance floor, thoughts of the night ahead filled my mind. But soon, my attention was diverted when I realized that I wasn't the only one fascinated by her beauty. At the other end of the room, a handsome man sat at a corner table, his gaze riveted on Gloria. He seemed mesmerized by her every gesture. I felt a sudden unease as I witnessed their rapid exchange of glances. Do they know each other? When Gloria went to the bathroom, I couldn't shake the feeling that the man's gaze lingered on me with a hint of arrogance. Despite the lively atmosphere of the dance club, I wondered why he was sitting there alone. It then dawned on me that, like Gloria, his partner was probably in the bathroom too. As I vigilantly watched the man while awaiting Gloria's return, a sense of anxiety washed over me. When Gloria asked for another glass of wine, I hesitated. The thought of her being alone at the bar bothered me. I waved to the bartender, eager for the drink to arrive faster, but I couldn't shake my growing disappointment. When the waitress came to take our order, I had a sense that the evening was slipping away from us. It was an intuitive feeling I couldn't ignore. Looking back, I saw the same man sitting alone in the corner, which confirmed my suspicions. I asked Gloria about it, catching her off guard. For a moment, I thought I saw a hint of panic in her eyes, but she quickly composed herself. "Which man?" she asked. She replied with an air of innocence, though there was a slight concern in her tone. "That guy over there," I said, referring to the man she had exchanged glances with on her way to the bathroom. Gloria quickly denied it, saying, "Darling, I don't know what you're talking about. I haven't exchanged glances with anyone." When our drinks arrived, I noticed that Gloria's gaze slid past me. Turning around, I saw the man approaching our table, completely ignoring me. He looked at Gloria and asked her to dance. "No thanks," I replied sharply, showing my displeasure in my tone. He mockingly responded, "I was talking to the lady." I answered quickly, "Yes, but the lady is my wife, and I decide who she dances with." Feeling a surge of indignation, Gloria intervened, trying to diffuse the tension. "You're being rude," she warned me gently. I was stunned by her accusation. "Rude? Do you even know this guy?" I demanded. "I'm talking about him. I don't know what's going on between you, but it's incredibly disrespectful of him to approach my wife without even greeting me," I continued. The man tried to intervene, but I quickly interrupted him. "Do you mind?" "I'm talking to my wife," I said rudely. "I don't need your help, that's for sure," I added firmly, returning my attention to Gloria. If he had asked if I would mind if you danced with him, I might have wondered, but now? "No way," I said firmly. My disappointment was palpable. "Dave, you're just ridiculous," Gloria replied, her tone now sounding impatient. "There's nothing between me and this man. We are married," she added, "and you don't control me either. I'm not here to serve you. If I want to dance with someone else, I will," Gloria said rudely. I was shocked by how disrespectfully my wife spoke to me. I had never felt such disrespect from her before. Despite my anger, I tried to restrain myself as she continued to speak. "Honey, I just want to have fun," she said, her tone softening. "Gloria, it's our anniversary," I said incredulously. "I want to have a good time too, but I want to do it with you. It's hard for me to sit here and watch you dance with someone else, especially when I've already asked you not to," I said. I tried to stay calm, but it was obvious that I wasn't doing a good job of it. "You're right, I don't control you, and I can't make you stop dancing with him. But if you decide to continue, know that I won't stick around," I said quietly. After 12 years of marriage, I could read Gloria's feelings just by looking at her face. Despite her outward anger, I was amazed at her inability to see the same emotions reflected on mine. She turned sharply to me, her words piercing the tense atmosphere. It would be rude to keep this gentleman waiting while we argue, so I decided to dance with him and leave our conversation for later. A smug smile appeared on the arrogant man's face as he extended his hand to Gloria. She reluctantly accepted, putting her hand in his, and they headed to the dance floor. I'm sure they didn't notice me leaving as I quietly walked out the door before the dancing started. When my cell phone rang, I found myself a few blocks from home. "Where are you?" came Gloria's apologetic voice. "I'm going home to pack my things," I replied sharply. "Why?" she asked. There was a pause before she asked, "What does pack up mean? Where are you going?" There was confusion in her tone. "I don't know yet, but I need to distance myself from you." "I've reached my limit," I said firmly. "You can't be serious, Dave. It was just one dance, for God's sake. Are you really going to ruin our 12-year marriage because of this?" She begged. "It's not just about dancing, Gloria. Why would you stay married to a man you don't love and respect? I didn't catch you in the act, but I have a strong feeling that you're cheating on me, maybe with that guy you just danced with. I noticed the way you both looked at each other when you went to the bathroom, and when he came to our table, he treated me with the same indifference a man shows the husband of a woman he's having an affair with." "Absolutely nothing," I said. "Dave, I really love you and respect you very much. I promise you, there was nothing going on between me and that guy. I would never betray your trust like that," Gloria said in a softer tone. "What makes you think that at all?" she asked incredulously. "You must be joking. We haven't spoken in over 2 weeks, and when we did, you seemed distant. You've been moody and easily annoyed for the last 2 months. Don't try to tell me you respect me, even though your behavior today suggests otherwise. If you're not cheating, you're certainly acting like it," I replied. After a long pause, she finally spoke. "I'm sorry, Dave. I didn't get it. I apologize for my behavior and for the way I acted tonight. I'm sorry that you got the impression that I was having an affair. I admit that I might have glanced at the guy on the way to the bathroom and noticed him when we were dancing, but I want to assure you that I'm not having an affair with him. Please, my love, come back and get me," Gloria pleaded, her voice desperate. "Unfortunately, I've reached my limit and I can't go back," I replied. "I warned you that if you danced with this guy, you'd have to find your own way home, and I was serious. I'm already approaching the house, and by the time you arrive, I'll be gone. If you're having an affair, maybe you should just go home to your lover and forget about me," I said rudely. "Please believe me, I'm not cheating. I'll take a taxi, but please wait until I get home. We need to talk," Gloria said with tears in her eyes. "Please, I'll be home soon," she begged before I abruptly hung up the phone. Arriving home, I quickly packed my bag and left the house in just 12 minutes. Questions were spinning in my head. Would Gloria take a taxi home? Or would this jerk leave her stranded? I drove out into the street, turned off the headlights, and waited patiently. 15 minutes later, a yellow taxi finally pulled up to the entrance. Satisfied with what I saw, I decided to go to the nearest motel. As soon as I pulled up, my phone started ringing again. I quickly turned it off, feeling anxiety building in my chest. Although I didn't have any hard evidence of infidelity, my intuition told me that something was wrong. I couldn't help but suspect that Gloria and the man she was dancing with weren't just acquaintances. I started thinking about hiring a private investigator to finally get to the truth. If I hadn't been there, maybe Gloria would have turned to her secret lover for comfort. The next day, I decided to act. I looked through the yellow pages to find a private investigator with good reviews. After meeting with him and paying the down payment, I returned to the office. My secretary, Joan, told me that Gloria had already called 20 times, but it seemed there was some sort of problem. I explained that I was having problems in my marriage and didn't want to talk to her. I asked Joan to deliver the message and also to not let her through. I knew I had to give the private investigator a chance to uncover the truth, so now I just had to wait. In the afternoon, Andrea, our neighbor, called me, and I realized that it had to be about Gloria. Despite my hesitation, I picked up the phone. "Dave," Andrea began, "Gloria told me about what happened last night. She tried to apologize, but said you didn't want to talk to her. That's right, I said firmly. I have nothing to say to her. There was a sigh from the other end of the phone line. She also said that you suspect her of infidelity. You don't really think that, do you? Andrea asked. I reluctantly admitted that I did. Her actions have been unusual for over 2 months, and the recent incident only confirmed my doubts, I said. Confirmed? She asked. I saw Gloria and the man in the restaurant exchange glances before he came to our table, I said. He showed great disrespect to me, and Gloria decided to support him by agreeing with his behavior. Although I tried to warn her about the possible consequences, she ignored my emotions. I strongly suspect there's a romantic connection between them. Dave, please think again. I think you're jumping to conclusions too fast. I've been living next to you for a long time, and if Gloria had been unfaithful, I'm sure I would have noticed some signs of it, Andrea said. I've never noticed unfamiliar cars parked outside your house, nor have I seen strange men come and go. She regrets dancing with that guy, although she was upset when you advised her not to. Now she understands that you were right all along. Trust me, Dave, I know Gloria, and I'm sure she wouldn't cheat on you, Andrea said. But I have to admit, her behavior that evening wasn't very conducive to love, I said. Please, Dave, talk to her, Andrea said. If you continue to avoid communicating with her, you'll never find a solution to the problem. I understood Andrea's point of view, but I needed time for the private investigator to complete his investigation. Andrea, could you do me a favor? Let her know that I will contact her in a couple of weeks. I need more time to think about everything, I asked. All right, Dave, she agreed. I'll give her the message. Just make sure you do it and call her then. Okay? I promise. I assure her. After saying goodbye, I couldn't stop the thoughts that were swarming in my head. Andrea and her husband Jack were close friends, and I trusted her implicitly. If Gloria was really unfaithful, she had hidden it flawlessly. For the next 2 weeks, anxiety gnawed at me incessantly. Despite the fact that I had repeatedly contacted the investigator, each time I received the same disappointing response. There was no significant news. But a few days later, I was called to his office, and I felt my nerves overwhelm me. I sat down in a chair, my stomach rumbling as he pushed the manila envelope toward me. My hand trembled when I reached for it. You can skip the boring parts, he said, pointing to the pages. Just go to the bottom of the 5th page, he added. With trembling fingers, I quickly flipped through the report until I found the right page. Is this really the proof I've been looking for? The document said. After a comprehensive investigation, our office has concluded that there is no evidence to support the client's concerns about his spouse's fidelity. The news came as a shock to me. I was visibly stunned by this discovery. Looking at the investigator, I asked, with a note of disbelief in my voice, "Are you absolutely sure?" The investigator reassured me, saying that his team had been carefully monitoring Gloria's actions over the past 2 weeks, including monitoring the house. The detective had tracked her connections, followed her every move, and scrupulously studied phone calls and credit card statements. After all his efforts, he confidently stated, "There is no evidence of an affair." Waves of relief washed over me, almost making me burst into tears on the spot. I tried my best to control my emotions, trying to keep myself composed in his office. "Go home, Mr. Barnes," the investigator said softly. "It's not often that there are happy endings in my profession," he added. After thanking the investigator, I returned to my motel room. I needed time to think about everything that had happened. I spent the whole weekend reflecting. By Monday morning, I felt ready to make an important phone call. When Gloria answered, her voice was trembling with excitement. "Hi, it's me. Are you all right? You sound upset," I asked. After a moment of silence, she finally found her voice. "Dave, oh Dave, I'm so sorry. I'm at a loss without you. I'm trying to be strong for Vanessa, but I can't stop crying. I'm sorry I took you for granted. You were right all along. I should have made it clear to that man that I was married, not single. I didn't respect you, and I can't understand why, because I really respect you," Gloria said, crying into the phone. "I love you, Dave. I swear, if you give me another opportunity, I won't make that mistake again," she said. Her sincere request took me by surprise. It was completely different from how she had behaved at the dance club. I hesitated to answer, and she immediately assumed the worst. "Won't you give me another chance?" she asked, her voice filled with despair. I just want my wife back. The woman who captured my heart, the woman with whom I exchanged vows, I said quietly. Dave, she's here, Gloria assured, her words filled with genuine emotion. We'll see, I said. Despite the difficulties we faced, the distance between us, and the hurtful behavior, I still did not dare to fully trust. I have to stop by the motel after work to pick up my things, but I'll be home tonight, I told her. Gloria hesitated before speaking, a note of regret in her voice. I love you, Dave. I'm really sorry for the way I treated you. I don't want to lose you, she said. Despite her sincere words, I couldn't ignore my doubts. I was still angry, and no matter what she said, I couldn't shake the feeling that Gloria knew that man from the dance hall. After finishing my workday, I packed my things and went home. Vanessa greeted me at the door with open arms, completely oblivious to the problems we'd been facing lately. Gloria was there too, hugging me tightly and showering me with loving kisses. I responded passionately to her caresses, but I couldn't ignore the fact that I still had deep feelings for my wife. 2 years had passed since that incident, and our married life had become absolutely fantastic. On our wedding anniversary, I was greeted by a beautifully decorated house and a candlelit dinner. Gloria once again demonstrated her care and love for me, making me feel like the happiest person in the world. Our relationship had truly blossomed over the years, and I am grateful for the kind of woman she has become. Last night was a reminder of why I fell in love with her at first sight, and I couldn't be happier celebrating 14 years of marriage with my amazing wife. Gloria surprised me with tickets to the Metropolitan Theater for the play The Man from La Mancha, which I adore. After the performance, we drove by car to the shore of the lake, where we walked along the beach under the soft light of the moon and a light breeze from the lake. It felt like a moment from a romantic movie. I love you, darling, I whispered, feeling the same excitement as when we first fell in love. And I love you very much, my dear, she replied with a smile. Despite the fact that the calendar had already announced the arrival of spring a few weeks before, it was only on this day that Gloria felt comfortable enough to leave the house without her bulky winter coat. This marked the official end of another brutal Chicago winter. Stepping out into the fresh air, Gloria took a deep breath, enjoying the newfound warmth and a sense of renewal in the air. There was a fresh scent of morning dew, reminiscent of the gentle April rain that had passed the night before. Gloria smiled, remembering the warmth and reliability of her husband's embrace, the sound of raindrops lulling them to sleep. As she walked to the car, her attention was caught by the beautiful blue wildflowers making their way through the grass. Their resilience, despite the trials of winter, was admired by her. As Gloria drove to the coffee shop, the spring breeze gently caressed her face, reminding her of the innate desire for renewal and new beginnings that always comes with the onset of the season. The tunes playing on the car radio seemed to echo this mood, and she couldn't help but feel a joyful anticipation of what this day would bring. She was on her way to meet Zara, a close friend whom she had not seen for a long time. Zara had a son the same age as Gloria's daughter, Vanessa, and their friendship had blossomed many years ago during one of the school holidays. Since then, they had remained close friends, sharing each other's joys and difficulties. When Gloria pulled into the parking lot of the coffee shop, she couldn't help but feel grateful for the opportunity to meet with Zara. There was a promise of a new start and new beginnings in the air, and she knew their meeting would be filled with laughter, love, and the warmth of friendship. Zara arrived at the cafe before Gloria and took a cozy table in the corner by the window. When Gloria entered the noisy cafe, their eyes met through the glass. They exchanged waves and smiles, and the aroma of freshly brewed coffee filled the air, creating a warm and welcoming atmosphere. Gloria joined the queue of customers, eagerly awaiting her cup of Colombian bliss. Zara, seeing Gloria approach, stood up with a smirk on her face. They felt a sense of comfort and connection that only true friendship can give. Despite the distance and the passage of time, their bond remained strong and unbreakable. They enjoyed every moment of reunion, cherishing the opportunity to catch up and share each other's joys and sorrows. Sitting in each other's warmth, they knew that no matter what life presented them, they would always find support from each other. "Gloria," Zara whispered, "can you keep a secret?" "Of course," Gloria replied, lowering her voice and pursing her lips. "What's going on?" "I probably shouldn't tell you about this," Zara admitted, her excitement obvious. "But while kind of dating a guy," Zara said. Gloria's coffee stopped halfway to her lips, and she looked at her friend in amazement. "Wait a minute. Are you implying that you're going to have an affair?" Gloria asked incredulously. Zara's lips curled into a mischievous half-smile as she considered her answer. "We haven't taken any decisive steps yet, but I can't deny that such an idea has crossed my mind. Eric is unlike anyone I've ever met, and talking to him awakens some new sides in me that I can't help but worry about. But I'm afraid he won't be interested if I don't do more," Zara said. Gloria intervened, her voice filled with concern. "Have you thought about the possible consequences of your actions? Are you willing to jeopardize your marriage for him?" Gloria asked. Zara shrugged nonchalantly, but there was a hint of contempt in her tone. "Oh, I have no intention of leaving Nick or anything like that. It's just a little fun on the side, you know. Life needs spices," she said with a smile. "And don't worry, I'll do everything I can to make sure Nick never finds out. I'll be crushed if he does. Besides, Eric is also married. We have to be careful," she added quietly. Gloria felt anxiety bubbling inside her, torn between her devotion to her friend and her own sense of right and wrong. After keeping her own secret for 2 years, she decided to trust Zara and tell her about it. "Zara, do you remember how Dave and I had a hard time a couple of years ago? He actually dumped me for a while." Gloria hesitated before continuing. Zara nodded, remembering that time. "Yes, I remember, but you didn't tell me much about it," she replied. "I've never shared this with anyone, and I need you to swear that you won't tell a single living soul about what I'm going to tell you," Gloria said, her voice serious. Zara nodded in agreement. "I promise, Gloria. I understand how important it is to keep this secret," Zara promised. "If this gets out, it could ruin my marriage. That's why I've been hiding it for so long. But you need to know before you make a choice that could jeopardize your own marriage," Gloria said. Then Gloria continued, her voice filled with tension. "I'm sure I'm not the only married woman who feels this way. After a dozen years of marriage, I began to feel a growing sense of monotony. The routine was suffocating me. It's like after all this time, I suddenly woke up and thought, is that really all? Is it really all? I felt trapped, like I was just going through the motions without any real purpose or direction." "That's exactly how I felt," said Gloria, understanding reflected in Zara's eyes. "I completely understand you, Gloria. Many women go through the same thing." Zara supported Gloria. "It's not that you don't love your husband. I love Dave with all my heart. It just suddenly seemed to me that something was wrong. It seemed like I was sinking into a light state of sadness. Nothing seemed to bring joy anymore, not even intimacy. And it's not because Dave didn't try for me," Gloria said. "I should have been thrilled, but my mood remained subdued, even in the sanctuary of my bedroom," she added. Gloria took a sip of coffee, studying Zara's face for any sign of understanding. Encouraged by her friend's gaze, she continued to share intimate details. "Then I crossed paths with Louis," Gloria said quietly. "Gloria, did you have a romantic relationship?" Zara asked, barely able to pronounce the words. Gloria confirmed this with a solemn nod. "Yes, it was an emotional connection," Gloria said. "One afternoon, it happened at a fancy grocery store on Marshall Avenue, and that's when I saw him. Zara, he was a truly noteworthy sight. His rugged charm, sandy blonde hair, and captivating blue eyes that shone like Robert Redford's. Not to mention his impressive height of over 6 feet. Even in clothes, his physique was irresistible," Gloria recalled with admiration. "I was completely mesmerized by him, unable to look away, until our eyes finally met. My cheeks burned when he smiled back at me. Our flirtation was intoxicating, bordering on the forbidden. But I quickly realized that I needed to regain my concentration and continued on my way through the grocery store. Reaching for the tomatoes, I suddenly bumped into him," she continued. "Those charming blue eyes and that charming smile greeted me again, Gloria said with a smile. I didn't want to admit it, but I felt a wave of joy wash over me. The situation was terrible. I silently hoped that he wouldn't pick up on the pheromones I was emitting, and a blush of embarrassment must have appeared on my face. He extended his hand for a friendly shake and introduced himself. Even though he noticed my wedding rings, he wasn't going to back down from his idea. Strangely, I was flattered by the thought that a man of his level might be intrigued by me. Gloria continued. We had a light conversation and laughed as we walked down the aisles, she said. When we were picking up the groceries, he confidently gave me his phone number at the checkout and offered me lunch next week, Gloria added. Zara was fascinated by Gloria's story, noting the similarities with her own experience. When I left the store, I almost threw away his business card, skeptical of his bold gesture. The thought flashed through my head that a passionate affair could lead to potential danger. But in the end, I decided not to throw away his contact information. Gloria continued her story. I didn't throw away his business card, but put it in my purse. Thoughts of Louis haunted me as I walked home. Dave arrived home just as I was putting away the groceries. Overwhelmed with guilt, I lashed out at him when he offered to help. It was like an unconscious defense mechanism had been triggered. Poor Dave just asked if everything was okay, Gloria said, shaking her head. I confessed to him that I felt a little exhausted because of all these purchases. But in fact, I was floating in the air. Even though I knew it was a bad idea, I couldn't resist the urge to call him. I was aware of my vulnerability, but emotions got the better of logic. Succumbing to temptation, I found a payphone and dialed the number he gave me. We agreed to meet for lunch the next day, Gloria said. Zara waited anxiously for Gloria to catch her breath. Gloria's emotions were seething as she prepared to share her story. While we were heading to the restaurant, I had mixed feelings, fear, anticipation, and longing. During our conversation, Louis reached out and took my hand, igniting in me a strong desire for intimacy that took my breath away. Gloria continued. Constant guilt, or perhaps even terror, prevented me from acting on my feelings. Despite this, I couldn't muster the courage to confront the situation. But Louis was unstoppable. He had already started using his seduction techniques, subtly undermining Dave's image and making him seem unworthy of me. Naively, I succumbed to his manipulations, and without realizing it, I felt a growing resentment against my own husband. Louis cunningly manipulated me into thinking that Dave didn't appreciate me, Gloria said. Your situation reminds me a lot of mine, Zara remarked. That's why I'm telling you all this. I want you to know what can happen. Has your partner told you about Nick yet? Gloria asked. Not really, Zara replied, pausing for thought. Well, he asked a few questions, like if my husband knows how lucky he is and so on, Zara said with an uncertain smile. Zara saw understanding in Gloria's nod. It made her think about her own situation. It's amazing how easily everything can slip past us, and we don't even know it. When Dave dumped me, he noticed that I had been moving away from him for more than 2 months, and I didn't even realize it. The lack of intimacy between us also went unnoticed by me. I couldn't find passion in a relationship with a man who didn't seem to appreciate me, Gloria said, recalling her experience. Understanding slowly dawned in Zara's eyes as she considered the situation. Think about it, Zara. What kind of man would risk starting a relationship with a married woman? Gloria asked, her tone firm. Zara shook her head, confident in her answer. Eric would never do anything like that, she said. That's where it all starts, Gloria insisted. So why put your marriage in danger for someone who doesn't appreciate it? Gloria asked. Zara considered Gloria's words, letting them sink in. Gloria continued her story. Despite our initial intentions to remain faithful, we continued to meet for lunch the following week. With each meeting, it became more and more difficult for me to resist Louis's advances. By the third lunch, he had almost convinced me to return to his apartment. I could see his disappointment as I made up excuses to leave, knowing that if we met again for lunch, we would most likely succumb to temptation. When we were leaving the restaurant after our third lunch, I casually mentioned that I needed to go shopping for a new dress, Gloria said. Dave organized a special meeting in honor of our anniversary, and I suggested visiting a dance club that we used to love going to. I remembered how much fun we had there, Suddenly, Louis jumped at the opportunity and announced that he would join us at the club, confident that he would dance with me. I tried to warn him by reminding him that this was our special day and dancing with someone else might upset my husband. But Louis arrogantly dismissed my concerns, Gloria said. Dave needed to be taught a lesson, and I decided to show him that other men are interested in me. I hoped it would make him realize how lucky he is to have me, Gloria said. How did Dave react to this? Zara asked. Gloria calmly took a sip of coffee and confirmed that, yes, Louis had indeed appeared. She saw him as soon as they entered the club, but tried not to show it. Dave and I were having a great time together until Louis came over and asked me to dance, Gloria said. Zara couldn't believe it and whispered, "Oh my God." Louis not only ignored Dave, but also behaved rudely towards him. Dave, of course, got upset and gave me an ultimatum. I couldn't dance with Louis, Gloria said. Being stubborn, I got upset and insisted on dancing with him anyway, she said bitterly. Dave warned me that he would not stay until the end of our dance. But I treated his warning as empty words, Gloria said, lowering her head. Zara's eyes filled with emotion as she listened, unable to ignore her friend's pain. When I went out on the dance floor, I decided to confront Louis about his attitude towards Dave. I asked him about his disrespectful behavior, to which he calmly replied that he wanted to prove his superiority over Dave. His words only lit a fire in me. Despite my anger, Louis continued to hold me close to him while we danced. Gloria continued, wiping away tears. At that moment, my main concern was whether Dave was watching what was happening and whether he was getting furious. I was so engrossed in these thoughts that I didn't even notice how the first dance ended and the second began. When the music stopped, I told Louis not to ask for any more dances. I announced my intention to spend the rest of the evening with my husband. As I walked back to our table, I noticed Louis watching me. I demanded an explanation for his actions, Gloria said. He expressed a desire to apologize to Dave, but when we returned to the table, Dave was nowhere to be seen. Louis sat down and casually mentioned that he would wait with me until Dave returned. I couldn't shake the feeling that he wasn't going to apologize. On the contrary, it seemed like he was trying to create even more drama between Dave and me, Gloria said. Zara asked in confusion, why would he do that? What can he gain from this? Gloria thought about the question. I suspect that since he hasn't yet succeeded in seducing me, he decided to sow the seeds of discord between Dave and me. Perhaps he hoped I would seek solace in him, which would eventually lead to him comforting me in bed by the end of the night. Thinking Dave was in the bathroom, Gloria invited Louis to return to his table, but he stayed late, taking advantage of the opportunity. He ordered drinks for them when the waitress came over. I couldn't believe it. I was just in shock. It turned out that Dave had already paid the bill and left. A picture of our lives flashed through my mind. I was stunned by his sudden departure, Gloria said, almost crying. The pain was obvious in her voice as she told her story, and Zara couldn't help but feel the weight of her emotions. Zara's feelings began to surface. One tear rolled down her face. You don't have to tell me all this, Gloria, Zara said softly, her voice full of compassion. You're obviously upset. Maybe we should take a break? She suggested. No, I have to tell you everything, Zara, Gloria replied, a flicker of determination in her voice. You should know the whole story. This is very important. She paused to calm down before continuing. So where was I? Gloria asked, remembering. Oh yeah. I quickly grabbed the phone and dialed Dave's number urgently, asking him to come back and give me a ride. It was at this moment that he expressed his shocking suspicion. He believes that I am having an affair, and that it's with Louis. He said he was packing up and leaving, not knowing if he would come back at all, Gloria said, wiping away the tears that had gathered in her eyes. This news hit me hard, like a heavy weight had fallen on me, Gloria continued. And then it was as if a light bulb suddenly turned on, illuminating everything around me. I realized that it wasn't Dave who was neglecting me, but on the contrary, he had constantly supported me and shown me love. I had taken him, Vanessa, and our life together for granted. I saw clearly that I was putting my entire marriage in danger for the sake of a man who didn't deserve it. Desperate to make things right, Gloria begged Dave to come back and talk, but he refused. With no other option, she called a taxi. While I was on my way to the house where Dave was, I couldn't help but wonder what Louis was doing during this turbulent time, Gloria said. Dave left, but Louis refused to back down. He was convinced that Dave was not right for me and continued to insist that I leave with him. I quickly baffled him with a firm answer, Gloria recalls with a laugh. Despite my unequivocal refusal, he continued to insist. Louis followed me outside and tried to take a step toward me when a taxi pulled up. Without thinking, I kneed him in the groin. I warned him that further actions would lead to legal proceedings regarding illegal harassment, Gloria said, with a bright smile. Zara held her friend's hand tightly, and Gloria continued to wipe away tears as she remembered. When I finally got home, Dave was nowhere to be seen. I tried to call him, but his phone was off, Gloria said. Zara, I was overcome with fear. It seemed to me that my marriage was collapsing right before my eyes. Our entire foundation, our family, seemed to be on the verge of collapse. I've never felt such horror in my life. I tried to contact him at his place of work, but he refused to talk to me. His secretary informed me that he had specifically instructed her to refuse me if I tried to meet with him. Feeling desperate, I turned to Andrea, my neighbor, because Dave was on good terms with her and her husband. I was hoping she could convince him to talk to me. To my surprise, he did talk to her, but only to explain that he needed time to think and assured her that he would contact me in a few weeks, Gloria said. Realizing that pushing him would not help, she decided to respect his need for space. The next 2 weeks were filled with agony. When Vanessa was around, I put on a brave face and assured her that Dad was at work. But when I was alone, the tears flowed uncontrollably. I was tormented by the thought that I had destroyed our bond. Dave's anger was palpable, and I doubted he'd ever come back, especially if he thought I'd been disloyal. Tears began to flow from Gloria's eyes again. I'm so sorry, Zara whispered, her voice full of emotion. It's just so hard to talk about it, even now. Gloria took a deep breath, trying to calm down before continuing her story. Then Dave called and said he was coming home, she explained. I was on the verge of losing everything, and it made me realize how lucky I am to have what I have. She looked at Zara, her eyes full of gratitude. After all, Zara, Gloria said softly, it was that call that changed everything. Love should always overcome desires. I have deep feelings for Dave, and he feels the same way about me. I don't think any other man is worth endangering what we have together, Gloria said. Zara nodded in agreement, acknowledging the importance of prioritizing love over fleeting desires. She then asked if Gloria had confessed the truth to Dave. Gloria shook her head, explaining, after I almost lost him once, I couldn't bear to think that it could happen again. Zara understood her friend's decision and offered her support. I constantly live in fear that one day he will find out the truth. But since he returned home, I have made it my mission to become the best wife. I no longer attach importance to the little things that interfere with our marriage. Every day, I am grateful for what I have, and I express my gratitude to Dave with all the love in my heart. I can only pray that my efforts will be enough if he ever finds out the truth, Gloria said. Zara comforted her by squeezing her hand reassuringly. Thank you for opening up to me, Gloria. Your story really made me reconsider my decision. I appreciate it, Zara said gratefully. I want to tell you, Gloria, that the story I told you is fiction. I don't have any romance. I'm sorry, but you have to be punished for the torment you've caused Dave. Gloria's eyes filled with tears. She raised her head and saw Dave with a folder in his hands. She wanted to scream in pain, but she opened her mouth like a fish. The pain filled her heart when she realized that her marriage was coming to an end. In fact, Dave could not believe that Gloria had not been involved in the affair. For these 2 years, he had continued to follow his wife. His soul could not find peace until one day, when he met Gloria's old friend Zara. Zara had always pretended to treat Gloria with love and respect, but she had been jealous of her friend. The moment Dave met Zara, he had the perfect idea. The entire conversation between the women had been recorded and bugged. Well, that's it, Gloria. Your game has come to an end. According to the prenuptial agreement, you leave the marriage with 20% of all our savings. Everything else is mine. Vanessa also stays with me, according to the prenuptial agreement. Goodbye, cheater, Dave said coldly.